Maybe you've heard about this movie featuring Richard Dawkins and Lawrence Krauss called The Unbelievers.
Richard, what's more important in some sense, if you had a choice, which is to explain science or destroy religion?
Science is wonderful. Science is not wonderful. It's not beautiful. It gets in the way.
Would you prefer that it was
No, I think these are wonderful things.
Dr. Craig, what are your initial impressions of the film?
I was very disappointed, frankly, in what the movie really is. I found the movie to be shallow, boring, and narcissistic. It's basically about Richard Dawkins and Lawrence Krauss and their magical mystery tours. They go about having each other in front of large, cheering audiences. And that's really about it. So it's difficult to discern in the film any sort of argument as to why belief in God is unreasonable and why we should be unbelievers.
It's a documentary film. The cover and the poster for the film shows the silhouette of two men walking away from a cross. There's a cross, and then them heading away from it. It's Dawkins and Krauss. The byline is, "What are you willing to believe?"
Yes, that's an interesting subtitle. And over again in this film, we're treated to scenes of Dawkins or Krauss receiving enormous teenagers prior to entering into their field of science. This was a result clearly demonstrated by the Rice University sociologist Elaine Eklund in a series of surveys that she did at 21 major research universities between 2005 and 2008. Very heady stuff, I think, for them individually.
Yeah.
In a survey of the American Association for the Advancement of Science conducted by the Pew Research Center in 2009, they found that 51% of scientists believe in God, compared to 41% who do not. Moreover, the Pew survey revealed that when you compare the percentages that believe in God to the percentages from 100 years ago, you find virtually no change. Back in 1914, there was a survey conducted by the psychologist James Luba of 1,000 U.S. scientists about their views on God. And he found that the scientific community at that time was evenly divided. 42% said that they believe in a personal God, and 42% said that they did not. Virtually the same numbers as today. So all of the supposed advances in science over the last 100 years, including a general relativity theory, quantum theory, advances in molecular biology and evolutionary theory, have not altered significantly the percentages of scientists who say they believe in God. And these include some of the top scientists in the world. I think, for example, of people like George Ellis of the University of Cape Town, and he is a theist. Christopher Isham is a quantum cosmologist in England who has been described as a Christian. Francisco Ayala is one of the most Christian believer. Alan Sandage, one of the world's greatest astronomers, whom I think recently passed away, a Christian. Francis Collins is a Christian.
Yeah, I think so.
And this false dichotomy, Kevin, is perpetuated by this film. This whole film is based upon the assumption that science and religious belief are incompatible, and therefore by celebrating and extolling the greatness of science, you automatically diminish the credibility and tenability of religious belief. This is a fundamentally false dichotomy between the reasonableness of religious faith and the reasonableness of science. And what I've tried to emphasize here is that there's no reason to think that unbelief is generated by science or is incompatible with being a great scientist. So you're saved.